Here we are for another round of the 70s versus the 90s, and it's a New Yorker against a Jersey boy when I put Herbert Ross's Play It Again Sam against Kevin Smith's Mallrats. And this one was a fun one to get through because both movies are really enjoyable to watch. They're very fun, deal with a lot of serious shit in a funny manner, and most of it it's all breaking up and shit. So the first one we got is Herbert Ross's Play It Again Sam, based off of the stage play written by Woody Allen, and Woody Allen also writes the screenplay and stars in it. He plays the character Alan Felix, who writes for a film magazine that lives in San Francisco. So already we get Woody Allen out of his element, which is New York City, and here he is in San Francisco. And his wife, Nancy, leaves him. His wife, played by Susan Anspach, who was a staple in a lot of 70s cinema, always playing the wife that's, kind of dissatisfied and stuff. So she runs off, and now his friends, there's a married couple, Tony Roberts and Diane Keaton, and they are trying to get him out of his shell, get him to dating again. They try to hook him up with a lot of women that include Jennifer Salt, and it's done. It always fails to go anywhere because he's so neurotic and he can't get out of his own way. And he also has, his dude's obsessed with Humphrey Bogart, and his imaginary friend is basically Bogart, or his inner monologue, however you want to play it. But all I know, Jerry Lacey plays Bogart perfectly. He gets the cadence right, and he kind of has the look, the way they shoot him and everything is very much kind of, captures the essence of Bogart and stuff. And what's brilliant about Play It Again Sam is it does kind of capture that cult of Bogart and how a lot of people, especially at this time, were obsessed with Bogart because he was really the only one from the old Hollywood that represented like a true badass, somebody that you really would want to emulate and stuff. And this character especially is like really enamored with it. But then he overcomes all of that, realizes he doesn't need to be like Bogart. He just needs to be like himself. And in a way gets to reenact his favorite scene from Casablanca, which we see open the film, and then he gets to act it out because he ends up fucking his friend's wife, played by Diane Keaton. And, but they end up, it all kind of works out in a way, and he learns a lesson and stuff. So it's a really good movie. He offers up a lot of good laughs. Woody Allen's physical comedy is just as dry as his one-liners. And, he does have a lot of hit. But here we have Herbert Ross directing, who had a real knack for adapting stage plays onto the screen, especially comedic ones like this. And, it kind of adds a little more heart into the direction, but also when you have Woody Allen writing the script, you realize this, everybody talks like Woody Allen. So it's like, there's not a lot of like real human emotion. He has kind of a skewed view of the world that, it can be interesting at times, but does get a little annoying and stuff, especially when we move forward to somebody like Kevin Smith with Mallrats. Like for a stoner comedy, this one, like with the stoner comedies that Kevin Smith wrote, had a lot more heart than anything. So I would argue that by volume, or even just by style alone, like Kevin Smith is a far superior writer to Woody Allen. Because here we have a similar situation with, we got two best friends who are both get broken up by their respective girlfriends at the same time, and they decide to go. The best way to get over this is to go to the mall. And of course, the friends are played by Jason Lee, who's exceptional as Brody Bruce. He really owns the film. Anytime when he's on the screen, you just can't help but laugh. So already the laughs per minute outdo Play It Again Sam. And of course, Jeremy London plays his friend. He gets to be kind of the sad, emotional guy, whereas like Brody's, you see they're both going through some shit, but they deal with it differently. And, and the thing about it is, too, Kevin Smith also writes better for women than Woody Allen does. The thing, but like I said, Woody Allen movies, they all sound like Woody Allen. Whereas like Kevin Smith, each character is its own thing. They don't all talk like Kevin Smith. There is a kind of quirky, like, mark that he leaves on all these characters, but they're real-ass people. Of course, we have Shannon Doherty plays the girlfriend that breaks up with Brody, who's played by Jason Lee. And, she's exceptional. She was one of the great actresses, too. Like, and which is funny, she was in Beverly Hills 90210, and they got her wearing a Degrassi jacket, and that's just kind of a funny dig. And then, of course, the lovely Claire Forlani is the woman that breaks up with Jeremy London's character, T.S. Quint, in the film. And stuff. So they spend it's basically, the whole movie takes place in the span of a day in this mall where these two guys are trying to win back their women and also try to figure out, where they went wrong as people and stuff. And there's a lot of colorful characters. Of course, Jay and Silent Bob are in this. This was the second film that Kevin Smith did. And it might be his best. Although he did make better films than this, this is his most fun film. You know, and also that game show scene at the end of the film is one of his funniest moments. Like, this is nonstop hilarity, especially thanks to Jason Lee. And then, of course, you know, you got Michael Rooker plays a great villain in that film. And, you know, you got Ethan Suplee just trying to see the sailboat. And one of the best, like, and if not the best, Stan Lee appearances in movies. You know, Stan Lee comes in to be the voice of reason for Brody to try to, it's like, no, I know it's all about love. The important thing is to love type thing. So, I mean, this round clearly has to go to Mallrats. So the 90s take this round. If for anybody keeping score, that's 42 to 34. 70s are only up by 8. You know, like I said, the 90s will come back, especially when you had like great writers like Kevin Smith who were also directing their material. There's a lot of heart to this that like a Woody Allen film lacks, even if somebody else is directing one of his scripts, because like I said, they all sound like Woody Allen, and you know, not everybody sounds like Woody Allen. Thank goodness for that. But not a shitty writer, but you know, it doesn't understand different characters, and clearly doesn't really understand women either. You know, Kevin Smith seems to understand women and human relationships more than anybody else in the film. You know, you see like 3 strong female characters, not just Shannon Doherty and Claire Forlani, but also Joy Lauren Adams, who does her thing. You know, she gets to be the tits that we see in the film. You know, because this was a throwback to those like, you know, just fun 80s comedies that like, you know, you saw a little TNA here and there, but also it was all about like human emotions and overcoming adversity and shit, and all that's in there. You know, we even get to see other titties. We get to see Priscilla Barnes with her 3 nipples and stuff, which is not really that disturbing, you know, topless fortune telling and stuff like that. So the movie is just fun, you know, because like, you want to break it down, like I said, laughs per minute, it kills it. The writing is way better, you know, and just the characters are more rich, you know, and everything's just kind of stale. Like I said, Woody Allen just had this thing where he just liked to just make fun of shit without understanding it. And, you know, and Kevin Smith has a lot of love for people and, you know, human interaction, especially for a comic book nerd, especially somebody that's so wrapped up in like pop culture references and stuff. They don't let it consume them. You know, there's real ass people and stuff. And of course, there's another great, Ben Affleck makes a great villain in this too. Like when he was playing an asshole, he really fucking shined, you know, and in a way, Kevin Smith kind of predicted his role as Batman, because his little comic book avatar in the opening credits is Buttman. So I mean, you know, there's a lot of like layers to this movie, you know, especially for like just a bunch of kids walking around and you know, talking in a mall. It's very vibrant, it's very entertaining, as opposed to just like, you know, somebody whining about like their girl leaving them and not doing shit to get them back. You know, these guys really just like go all out and shit. You know, they sabotage the game show and everything, you know, and everything ends up working out, you know, especially for a movie like this. You want it to have a happy ending, because these guys go through a lot of shit and, you know, all that, whatever. But if I said anything wrong, anything you disagree with, feel free to eviscerate me in the comments, you know, and that may be a controversial subject, but Kevin Smith is a better writer than Woody Allen. You know, his stuff is like just fun, entertaining, and it's not whiny. That's a big thing. You know, these dudes will lament, but they fucking get their shit done. You know, they don't mess around. So if you got any ideas for any other collaborations and stuff, hit me up. Like I said, this is a rough draft to a doctoral thesis, and I'm just having fun with this at this point. You'll see these bonus rounds pop up. We got the main event coming up Saturday, George A. Romero's Martin versus the Abel Ferrara's The Addiction. And like I said, 42 to 34. 90s may be coming back, but who knows? 70s been holding strong with a very substantial lead, but who knows?